Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another day text. Today is Wednesday, May 29th. We meet every weekday morning and Saturday morning between 5:30 and 6:30 a.m. to progressively work our way through the biblical books and letters, as well as other related texts and histories, anything we can find that relates to the God Jah, involves whom we accept as the biblical Messiah Jesus, and how we can treat others the way we want to be treated, the golden rule. That's what we're interested in. Of course, we do other things as well, movie reviews and topical discussions about pretty much anything. But during these day texts, we go through the biblical books and letters and other texts that are similar to them or from the same time. So we're working our way through the letter of 1 John, one of three letters contained near the end of the New Testament, written by Jesus' beloved disciple John, who also wrote a history about Jesus' life and teachings. Good morning. So we're reading through the first letter that John wrote, or what is recorded as the first letter. And we're in chapter 3. Today we're going to read verses 9 through 12. I also put a note to verse 11 in the description that we may or may not look at, but that you can consider relative to the use of beginning in verse 11 if you choose to. All right, let's start with the text. 1 John chapter 3, verse 9. Each person who has been born from God does not continue doing what is wrong, because God's seed, or generative power, remains in that person. He is not able to keep doing what is wrong because he's been born from God. We talked a little bit about this yesterday as well, and we compared what was said, similar to the first part of verse 3, that people born from God don't continue doing what is wrong. We compared that with the first chapter of John, where he told us we're a liar if we have no sin. So we're not talking about people who continue to make mistakes or succumb to weakness and who are struggling. Right? You feel bad. You're not feeling good about sins or wrongdoing. You're just a person like me and most other people struggling to do what's right, and when we fail, we don't think of it as a good thing. we don't feel proud about our sin. We try to get past it and get over it. So it's not something we actually approve of. We have weaknesses that we succumb to, or we're just sometimes dumb and we do things we know are not right. So we're not talking about those kind of people, and you're going to see how that's borne out later on. We're talking about people who continue to do what's wrong without thinking about the consequences of the wrongdoing being done, so that it would affect them and their conscience and they could stop or moderate their behavior. They're not doing that. Verse 10, by this it is obvious who are the children of God and who are the children of the devil. Okay, so he's going to give us a clue, an obvious clue. Children of God over here, children of the devil over here. What is the clue? Everyone who does not help bring about what is right is not from God. Nor is the one who does not show affection for his own brother. So the children of God, according to Jesus' beloved disciple John, help bring about the right things, not the wrong things, not things that hurt people, blaspheme God, or destroy society. That's what Hollywood and these other garbage dump groups are putting out every single day, right? They're not bringing about what is right. How are they bringing about what is right? By glorifying the destruction of the woman, the feminization of the man, and making children into horrific superhero characters that kill everybody, or their own family and as many other people as they choose to. Brightburn, right? What a horrible show. Yet James Gunn chose to make a movie about a child killing all these people right after his pedo tweets and his involvement at a pedo-themed party were exposed. This was the movie that he wanted to do. Is that helping bring about what's right? So people like that and places like Hollywood, they're producing this filth and garbage. It's nowhere near what's right. How could it be? It's not helping anybody. And it's hurting pretty much everybody. They're not showing love for their brothers and sisters of humanity. They're trying to bring us to the lowest level possible. Verse 11, because this is the message which we understood from the beginning, that we should show love to each other. Verse 12, not like Cain, who was from the wicked one, and who murdered his brother. And for what reason? Because Cain's works were wicked, but his brother's works were righteous. That account to me is so important because it's not only the first recorded murder, obviously, but it shows you what people will do today in order to overcome the feeling of jealousy they have. So in other words, Cain saw that Abel offered a sacrifice to Jah that was more pleasing than what he was offering. Now, instead of recognizing what he could have done, and then obviously could then go do in giving Jah the same satisfaction, he could have just recognized that his brother had given Jah something more pleasing, and then went and done the same thing. But he didn't. Why? If his goal was to have Jah approve of him, why didn't he just recognize that the way Cain sacrificed to him was the way you get that approval? Because he wasn't looking for Jah's approval. He was competing with his brother. And he was so upset that Cain got the initial approval and he didn't. Even though he could have then used that very occasion to go out and get the very same approval by doing the very same thing that his brother did, instead of doing that, he killed his brother. So we know that Cain was not looking to please Jah. Number one, he really didn't give him the best of his properties in ways that, because humans were now sinning, we needed to appease Jah before the coming of Jesus. So instead of doing that, instead of doing the right type of sacrifice, keeping his brother, working together, helping other people do the things pleasing to Jah, Cain was so upset that he didn't get that initial approval. He killed his brother. And Jah even tried to warn him. So early on in humans' history, where Jah was more involved with people, trying to set the right path for us in ways that would ultimately allow for his seed, his son, to redeem us. But the choices humans had made were so bad and continued to be so bad, he eventually had to destroy the world in the flood. But he was still talking to individuals as early back as Cain to try to get them to choose the right ways. They just refused. See, Jah does not make you choose. He gives you the options. He shows you what's happening. And he watches what you will do. And then he rewards or punishes you, just like a normal parent would. We hope that our children learn and do the right things. And when they do, what do? We reward them because we approve of the choices they're making. We know it's going to help them in the future. So punishment doesn't fit because we don't want to stymie that behavior. We want it to grow. Bad behavior has to be stymied. So punishment comes. Cain was punished. The ground was cursed on his account. And he had to flee from others continuously because of what he did. So there's no getting away. You can't commit a sin, especially one like this, murder, and just call it a day. You're just not going to walk away from that. Jehovah will find out. All the blood of every living creature, he knows when it is spilled. And every single spirit, when it is released from the physical form, goes back to him with all its memories, every detail that was involved with the living part of that spirit. So there's no getting away. There's no escaping the life that gave life to life, which because life is here now, we know it's always been, because there can be no break in that chain and life still continue. So life has to be eternal because it is here now, and that's the eternal life we call Jah. So we look to these accounts because they're written by people who either worship Jah or who eventually not only worshiped him but accepted his son, like John, and they're teaching us all these things that they learned from him and through their application of the scriptures. So that's what we try to do as well. Learn from these accounts, understand the historical context in which the New Testament was written, and then try to gain details about how we can better ourselves so that when we're faced with similar circumstances where we're going to be potentially jealous of another person, maybe even our own brother, like Cain and Abel, they're getting some promotion or they're being praised by our parents, and those feelings they happen to us now because we inherited them all the way back from the time of Cain. So it's tough. We're going to deal with jealousy. It's going to happen at some point, either in us or in other people, and you can see how destructive jealousy is. And remember, the definition of love given by Paul in 1 Corinthians, love is not jealous. So if you sense jealousy in another person, that's the absence of love, at least at that point. And you need to be careful. Jealousy is a powerfully destructive emotion. I mean, you can see in the account of Cain and Abel that even the circumstances where Cain was, that he could see what he could do to get the same approval, and where Jah was trying to get him to choose that way, he just couldn't do it. He was so jealous of Abel. And that feeling, we've seen that feeling in others or maybe experienced it ourselves. We know that it's a terrible feeling, terribly destructive, because if you don't moderate it, it can get out of hand. And your jealousy will lead to hate in a way that will cause you to react if you're not someone trying to follow the ways of Jah and Jesus. Because jealousy left unchecked is just like a fire you don't put out. It's going to burn down the house or whatever it is that it's approaching. So do not let it happen. You want to extinguish any feeling of jealousy you have as fast as you can, because that's the quickest way to hating your brother, like Cain and Abel. And if you can suppress jealousy and remove it, that's also, in my opinion, one of the fastest ways you can start cultivating love. Oftentimes, the reason why we have a hard time cultivating emotions like love is because we're allowing the presence of other emotions like jealousy to crowd out our love. So you can't have these competing emotions, not for very long. One of them is going to win out. And so try to suppress or eliminate, if you can, these negative emotions like jealousy. And then you will have more freedom, more room, more emotional capacity for love. And then that's what will flow through you and show itself in your actions. And you won't be like those who are continuing to do what's wrong as if it doesn't make any difference. You'll be aware of something wrong when you do it and then confess, ask for forgiveness, which we receive through Jesus. So we shouldn't be burdened with these sins. We have forgiveness. Just don't use it as an excuse to do more badness. If you do badness because of who we are and because of our nature, we can get past that. Just try not to justify your sins as if they're something that's a good thing, right? That would be then establishing your badness as something that's good. And that's not going to lead to the kind of repentance and development as a Christian that we're working towards. It's just going to pull you down further into what is bad. So try to do your best to avoid negative emotions and people who display them or who radiate them. They will catch you in their emotional trap And it's like you got to escape their presence almost, or whatever it is that they're using to communicate their emotions to you. And it's a terrible feeling. So try to limit your association. If you find yourself with people radiating these terribly destructive emotions, you'll be much, much happier. And if you are around someone who seems really jealous of you, you better watch out. You keep your eyes open and do not think that that jealousy is just going to burn out. Maybe. But look at Cain and Abel. You think Abel was worried about Cain? No, because really there wasn't a lot of sin in the earth at that point, or even anyone who had murdered someone. So he was caught off guard for reasons that today we don't have, but we can allow ourselves to think better about someone than they really are, and fool ourselves into thinking we can trust them, only to find out that they were either jealous or not supportive of us the whole time. So we have to be careful with our associations. We can't avoid every negative association or emotion. We can avoid some of them, though. So do your best to try to cultivate love and positivity versus jealousy and destruction. I think you'll be happier. Now, there's a question here, kind of which is out of topic. So, okay, there's a question about driving demons from people. So, driving demons from people. Well, we'll move on to this topic now. So we've considered, I think, the day text sufficiently. So I guess the question I would have is, why would you think you cannot drive out a demon? Right? I mean, because in the Bible we read regularly about Jesus and his followers using his name to drive out demons. So what do I think about these ministries? Well, a lot of these ministries that are sort of like, you'll get these videos of people talking to their parishioners as if they're possessed and they're acting really crazy and all this stuff. That's not what demon possession and exorcism is about. That's a show. They're just putting on a show. Well, it may be real demon possession, who knows, but why are they showing that to us? The only reason they would be showing that to us is to glorify themselves. A real Christian who is faced with a real demon-possessed person does not turn the camera on. Does not try to get as many people as possible to witness what's happening. You just address the demon in the power of Jah and Jesus, and that's it. They're not going to be able to deal with it. I almost never encounter demons in that way because they know. Most demons know who you are. If not all of them. They knew who Paul was. They know who you are. They're not going to just open themselves up to you expelling them in ways that are going to create a problem, especially if the Father becomes aware of what they're doing in a way that, even though he knows all things, now his attention is on those demons because you're there. What did the demons do when Jesus was there? They were terrified, right? They were terrified that he was going to destroy them and that their time had come. But Jesus, he knows who they are. He knows the pathetic condition they're in. And that's why when they asked to be released into the pigs, he let them. Because if they weren't, they might have been disembodied in some way. That they might have had, this is getting into a little metaphysical speculation here, but if you look at the account, why did they plead with him to go into the swine? Because there was something about not being in anything that was a problem for them. And Jesus was casting them out of the man, the legion. But they didn't want to just be out. They wanted to be in something material. And so that's why they asked to go into the swine, and he let them. See, Jesus, he obviously doesn't approve of what they're doing. But sending them into a herd of pigs, obviously isn't damaging another human in Jah's image. And what did they do? They just ran off the cliff, so they couldn't even handle that. But it was better for them to be in the pigs than to be in nothing. or no physical form at all. So maybe there's some difficulty that they have in getting into these human beings or other physical forms. But as a Christian, you have authority. You are able to, you won't be in those kind of situations. The things you see in the TV and the churches and all that crazy yelling and stuff. Do you see that in the New Testament? I mean, you see sometimes the demons calling out and yelling, but I don't see Paul, Peter, or Jesus reacting in the crazed kinds of ways that you see the people today acting. They just calmly and directly address the demon. And then it stops or becomes different in some way that isn't the insanity you see, what seems like real insanity in some of these churches. But who knows? If they're expelling demons, so be it. That's, let them do what they're called to do. If they're not, remember, Jesus said that people would tell him in the day when he comes, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not cast out demons in your name? And what does Jesus say to them? Get away from me. I never knew you. So we are not to use the expulsion of demons as an evidence that people are Christian. People can expel demons just by using Jesus' name. And remember, Jesus' followers reported back to Jesus that they encountered others who were using his name to expel demons. And he said what? Don't stop them. Whoever is not against me is for me, or whoever is not against you is for you. So the power of Jah and Jesus goes beyond approved Christians in order to deal with demons, because it's just that they hate that power and the association of Jah and Jesus. They don't want that. They want the darkness. The demons don't want you calling the Father to their presence. That's the last thing they want, because they know if the Father comes, I mean, what would happen if you had a bunch of children and they were at a place doing a bunch of bad things? Do you think they would want someone to call their father? Someone shows up at let's say a house party or something, a bunch of related kids are doing a bunch of bad things, and someone else comes in and they're like, well, I'm going to call your dad. And they get on the phone and they start calling the kid's dad. They'd be like, no, 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 no. That's how the demons are with Jah, okay? They do not want the Father coming down to them. No. That would be very, very bad for them, but very, very good for us. So they get their time. Let them have it. Remember those accounts. Remember what Jesus said. They can expel demons, even if they're totally rejected by Jesus, at the power of the name. But that's not going to save them. So I would highly recommend that you follow the examples of Jesus, Peter, Paul, and others who expelled demons. Do so directly, reasonably. If you're faced with a situation you think might involve a demon, they will know you. They're not totally retarded. They just are choosing bad ways like many of us do at times, and they that's what they want. But they know who you are, or they find out pretty quickly. And if you start talking about Jah and Jesus, they're out of there. They're not going to stay around while you start calling down the Son and the Father. That's the last thing they want. So you're not likely going to have extended involvements with demon-possessed people. They're not going to want to be around you. But if they are, you know what to do. You stand tall, you speak confidently, and you call down Jah to assist you and address the demon. And I guarantee you, before you even finish speaking, that demon will be out of there. They don't want Jah to come around. So call Jah down. Speak to the Father and to the Son. And believe me, the demon will run. So I thank all of you for joining me today. We'll keep working our way through 1 John. And I'll be back tomorrow for another day text. I have a ton of videos that I'm still working on. I've got a special video today I'm going to put up on flat earth. I know a lot of people are kind of open to it, but I'm telling you, the evidence is overwhelming. And I'm going to highlight a channel today, whom I believe is the best anti-flat earther out there. And the videos, he's a pilot, and he just devastates the whole flat earth thing. all the time. So I want to highlight his channel. I'm going to do that today. Flat Earth video coming later today. And I still have some Hollywood garbage dumps, other things. This Sunday we're going to do CW Jaw Talk 18. We're going to do pre-Christian text proving Jesus is the biblical Messiah. And we're going to focus on Zechariah 12:10. So I hope you will all join me for that. I have some, like I said, other videos I'm working on. So you'll see things being uploaded today, tomorrow, and throughout the week. And so I look forward to getting those online. Let me know if you have any questions about anything, ideas, suggestions about shows. Otherwise, we'll just keep going until we finish the day texts through the end of Revelation. We'll reset with Genesis. Tons of good material we'll be able to talk about there. Flat earthers will have a lot to talk about. We'll get into the firmament, all that stuff. So, but still, let's finish 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, then Revelation, and then Genesis. So, look forward to that. Hope you all join me and have a wonderful day. I'll see you all tomorrow for another day text.